The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted by world leaders during the 70th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2015. The 2030 Agenda envisions a present and a future that is economically sustainable, socially inclusive, and environmentally resilient. This is expressed through the framing of the 17 SDGs, 169 targets, and 230 related indicators. As the terminal date for the delivery of SDGs draws closer, accelerated efforts are needed to boost sustainable solutions to the biggest challenges facing the implementation, with all hands on deck to enhance national implementation and strengthen institutions to achieve the goals by the target date of 2030. This also includes the deployment of inspiration and creativity at sectoral, local, and individual levels to expedite action on SDGs implementation. This formed the imperative for the recent retreat for the management staff of the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, organized to brainstorm with the objectives of strengthening their capacity to articulate programs and activities that can lead to achieving the 2030 Agenda and the SDGs as well as promote multi-stakeholder and participatory approaches through the sharing of knowledge and best practices. In his welcome remarks, the Secretary of Program in the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, Engineer Ahmed Kawu, highlighted the overarching goal of the retreat.
This retreat has come to fruition at this strategic period in the discharge of our mandate and specifically in the decade of action to deliver the goals of achieving sustainable development goals in Nigeria. The goal of this retreat, as earlier stated, was to strengthen the institutional memory and capacity in the coordination and in implementation of SDGs in Nigeria. OSSAP SDGs has the overall mandate to provide very strategic planning and intergovernmental coordination for the SDGs in Nigeria. Therefore, this retreat has brought together officers from grade level 14 and above in the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to Mr. President as stakeholders to reflect, brainstorm, come up with an effective delivery of policies, programs, and projects at achieving the SDGs in Nigeria.
Speaking at the event, the acting United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator in Nigeria, Matthias Skumale, lauded the initiatives and other strategies put in place for the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals in Nigeria by the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, describing the office as leading by example. The United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator particularly praised the office for the clear pathways charted by the effective implementation of the SDGs and excellent achievement in galvanizing local and international partners and stakeholders across the country to continuously contribute their quota in the quest to attain the SDGs. Matthias Skumale particularly lauded Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, Princess Adejoke Orilokpe Adefulire, and her team for organizing the retreat, which he noted will further strengthen the general efforts towards the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. He, however, noted that there is need to continue to intensify efforts and sustain progress in the bid to stay on track with the implementation in this decade of action, as the failure of Nigeria to attain the SDGs will negatively impact the overall effort of Africa.
I commend through the Princess the government of Nigeria for its unwavering commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals that really is unique, not just in Africa but around the globe, and for the dedication you are showing towards implementation and achievement. The Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President for SDGs sets a really good example for many countries, and it's an example to follow. It's really impressive, Your Excellency, what team you've built here, listening to your introductions, the variety of specialities and expertise you bring to the table. I've not heard about in any other country, so congratulations to you. And please be assured that you have the full support and resources of the United Nations system. It's not my office alone, but UNDP, UNICEF, and the other, in total 19 agencies of the UN that are working in Nigeria. And I don't need to tell you the importance Nigeria has in meeting SDGs, not just for this country, but for the continent and for the globe. If we don't get it right in Nigeria, we probably won't get it right anywhere else. So there are significant challenges to overcome, and we see accelerated and transformational efforts being required if we are to meet this great nation's development ambitions.
Also speaking, the co-chair of the Private Sector Advisory Group on SDGs, Bolaji Balogun, emphasized the need to continue to mobilize the private sector, which he described as key partners to ensure sustainable results. He advised the government to increase investment in infrastructure in line with Goal 9, as this remains the bedrock for sustainable development in any society.
Infrastructure is the cornerstone to growth. And if we can all figure out a way of financing low-carbon, resilient infrastructure across Nigeria and indeed across Africa, we will deliver on all of the SDGs. Why is it important to do so? When we look at Nigeria's government today, and we look indeed at all African governments, there's one thing that stares all of us in the face, and that is that governments have very, very limited wallets and very, very limited fiscal space. So this year's budget is Nigeria's largest ever budget. In dollar terms, it's approximately $25 billion. But when you look at the components of the budget, then you understand the problem. The first issue is that $25 billion, which appears so large, is only 6% of Nigeria's GDP. What does that say to you and I? It says actually that the private sector, not the government, is the most important part of this economy. And if the most important part of the economy is not focused on the SDGs and how we attain the SDGs, then to a large extent, right, we are missing a trick. I put it to you that if we focus on SDG 9 and we focus on how we can get more capital going into infrastructure, we will develop this country.
In her keynote address, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, Princess Adejoke Orilokpe Adefolire, affirmed that her office has made significant achievements in certain aspects, while a lot still needs to be done in other aspects. She noted that through the institutional frameworks of the office, OSSAP SDGs has been actively involved in key policy decisions at the global and national levels on the SDGs, and has in the last 6 years, together with other stakeholders, made significant progress and achievement in the coordination and implementation of SDGs in Nigeria, and have also successfully implemented other flagship programs and initiatives across the country.
In the last 6 years, together, we have made significant progress and achievement in the coordination and implementation of the SDGs in Nigeria. Notably, we have developed a country transition strategy for the MDG to SDGs in 2015. The 3 critical phases, namely building the existing foundation, which is 2016 to 2020, scale up investment, 21 to 25, and accelerate implementation, 2026 to 2030. We have realigned the national statistical system with the requirement of indicator of the SDGs. Also integrated the SDGs into the National Development Plan of the federal government, the Economy Recovery and Growth Plan 2017 to 2020, and NDP 2021 to 2025, as well as a Nigeria Agenda 2050. We have also launched the Nigeria Integrated SDG ISDG Stimulation Model as a framework for aligning national development priorities with the SDGs. We also presented the first and second national voluntary reviews to the United Nations High-Level Political Forum, first in 2017 and the second in 2020. We have launched the Nigeria SDG Implementation Plan in 2020 that takes us to 2030. And we also established multi-stakeholders engagement platform implementation of SDGs in Nigeria. We have also successfully implemented other flagship programs and initiatives across the country. The Conditional Grant Scheme to the state and FCT still in our plans and still ongoing. Independent evaluation of SDG 3 and SDG 4 with UNICEF, supporting SDG-based planning at the sub-national level in partnership with UNDP, and designing on implementation of integrated national financing framework (INFF) with some of our UN systems. We've done so much, and I mean it's so much in terms of infrastructure, but there's still room for improvement.
The presidential advisor noted that going forward in this decade of action for the SDGs, greater coordination and cooperation is required among all stakeholders, and the retreat provides an opportunity to collectively review the past, examine the present, and project the immediate future across the economic, social, and environmental dimension of our office, as well as answer some of the questions raised with a view to build a solid foundation for the Nigeria by all.
As we commit ourselves, I would like to reaffirm my personal commitment and the commitment of Mr. President to the transformative promise of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. As we shared all the sessions at this retreat, I look forward to hearing more from you on how best effectively we can organize ourselves, work with our partners, the UN system, the private sector advisory group, the civil service, and the civil society advisory group for strategic group for SDGs, women organization, youth organization, older people, people living with disability, and other critical stakeholders. And I'm sure that working together will increase our horizon and give us the benefit of helping Nigerian people, especially the poor and the vulnerable.
The 2030 Agenda recognizes that capacity building forms part of the means of implementation for the SDGs. Each SDG contains targets relating to the means of implementation, including capacity building. It also attempted to incorporate and address the technical skills needed for delivering the SDGs by particularly focusing on adherence to ethics and values for development, as well as team building. Prof. Aminu Maman, Global Development Institute, University of Manchester, was on hand to take the participant through with a virtual presentation on human and cultural capital foundations for public sector ethics and development, while Celine Lafoquere, UNICEF Chief of Field Office, Lagos and Akure, made the presentation on the methodologies and status of Nigeria based on the evaluation of SDG 3 on good health and well-being and SDG 4 quality education. Day 2 of the retreat focused on team building exercise as a major recipe for fast-tracking the implementation of the SDGs, led by Yinka Olugbodi of Team Building International, Participants were grouped into teams, each representing a particular goal of the SDGs. Their assigned tasks were targeted at highlighting potential challenges hindering productivity within the organization while attempting to provide solutions to them.
The whole essence of this team bonding retreat for OSSAP is to make us to be a stronger team and refocus us into achieving the 17 sustainable development goals. How do we build a stronger team? How do we coordinate ourselves into a cohesive and strong force, to deliver our mandate. That's why I'm here. I think the desired outcome and the objective of the whole team building retreat has been achieved in the sense that people are coming or going back to Abuja with a very high, morale. Our morale has been boosted. There's high motivation to perform. People are more unified in terms of cohesion has been achieved, and we believe that we are going to extend this to the point of bringing the whole organization and the rest of the organization into that same mentality.
The retreat was an amazing one, and one of the activities of the retreat was the team building exercise, which you could see that everyone was excited about the team building, and team building is very key to improve employees' engagement, improve communication among team, improve the workplace organization culture through team building activities. We hope that after this retreat, it's going to improve the overall productivity of employees in the workplace, because when we improve on the workplace culture, it improves the output of productivity of employees, and this shows that we'll be able to achieve the mandate of the 2030 agenda.
This is recommended because as human beings, it's a forum and opportunity for us to acquire new skills, we acquire new technology, and deploy the knowledge, adding value to whatever we do in the office. Our experience is to make sure that when we go down, we cascade all the lessons we have learned so that we can deliver better services and the achievement of the office mandate.
The key takeaways that we have from the retreat are the importance of team building, being able to work as a team, being able to consult more, being able to stay together, working for the achievement of the SDGs. In fact, the retreat provided the opportunity for us to appraise what we have been doing, even the way we do the work, and being able now to see clearly what is ahead of us, and then focus more on how to achieve the mandate.
And we have gained tremendously well. And all departments, all head departments were here. It's an opportunity coming together in a very relaxed atmosphere like this to interact and to get to know more about our mandates and our achievements and our assessment towards year 2030.
Details were discussed. It will go a long way to help me to deliver. Here we shared ideas, bonding, and how to make the SDGs work. We have looked at communication strategies that will also make us quickly to attain the goals we are pursuing.
It's a good way to motivate and stuff. And definitely everybody will now become more reinvigorated and more freshened. Lessons have been learned, and those lessons shall be passed on to my staff, or now to become more productive. Everything that I've learned here definitely will be passed on to them. My major takeaway is this: that success doesn't come easy. With hard work, the sky is the limit. So, and of course, you all have to work as a team. There shouldn't be any form of isolation, because with teamwork, that's when you even get the more success.
In fact, it has broadened my horizon. It enabled me to know what other departments are doing, apart from just what my departments are doing. So it's helped me to, I'm more informed. And it has actually encouraged us to be more passionate about what we do. So it goes beyond, we now see our job more as our calling. It's not just a job for salary, make us more, encourage us to be more committed so that we can deliver better on our schedule in the office.
I learned that no matter the obstacles, the circumstances you face in doing your job, you should keep pushing. Perseverance, put extra efforts. It will help you to get to the destination and achieve your goal.
As a civil servant, we have a lot of perception of government work, but with this retreat so far, I've learned a lot, especially in the aspect of my own job. I've learned as a leader, I should be accountable in whatever I do, should be honest and truthful, and make sure I carry everybody along. For my department, I'll be transparent in whatever you are doing at your workplace.
We're going back empowered to work as a team to be able to achieve the SDGs in Nigeria. So a lot of, where there are gaps, we've known that, and what we need to do to bridge the gaps. Of course, we've learned quite a lot of things about that, and it is quite a great opportunity we had, to come together to learn these things, and so that will help in scaling up the SDGs implementation in Nigeria.
This provides a unique opportunity for people to meet each other, discuss, and become closer to improve our relationship and interaction, and most important, to also learn from one another. And then, of course, to build our capacity in an area that will help us to drive the SDG coordination, implementation in the country.
I think one of the key things I've learned from this workshop is, to work in harmony, especially, and I'm very particular coming from the, from the UN background, you have to respect diversity, and they also have to understand the duty of care.
The retreat has exposed me to the need for teamwork, need for consultation, need for sharing experiences, need for forgiveness, need for synergy in carrying out our respective responsibilities for us to achieve the desired goal.
With the theme reflecting and strategizing for effective coordination of the SDGs implementation in Nigeria, the retreat is part of the strategies of the office aiming to strengthen the capacity of the relevant unit heads and staff of OSSAP SDGs towards the attainment of SDGs by the year 2030.
This 2022 management retreat of the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals is to basically reflect and strategize for effective coordination of the implementation of the SDGs in Nigeria. So participants of this 2022 management retreat have got to, first of all, understand, the ethical and moral positions they occupy as public servants. Building on that, they got to understand also the strategic position they occupy in the overall coordination and implementation of the SDGs. An overview of the SDGs implementation in Nigeria was provided to participants. We've examined the existing strategy, and then we've been able to also project, activities that will help us deliver on the mandate of the office come 2030. Participants have gone through a rigorous team building exercise, trying to build an effective team, recognizing the role that an effective team play in an organizational setting. So participants had a whole day activity on effective team building activities, and that has come to strengthen the the bond and the team spirit, if you like, of the management staff on this retreat. And then we've been able to see what are the things that we need to improve upon. And then as we go back to our respective units, then we know that we belong to a larger team, and that is OSSAP SDGs.